Greetings, this is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster. And this is sort of a behind the scenes thingy of the Trans and Trans 2 and Karda Saga. 30 years later. Because we managed to download all the audio commentaries. They're on their way on the channel. And that's all you're going to see. The original Trans stories originally weren't going to go up online. Trans isn't Transformers. Not trans people, Transformers. And they were going to go up online, but the audio background often had music that we cribbed from other places. And so we couldn't put that up until now. So now we have. The first one, we had a Trans, the first Attack on the Hills or Sneak Storm or whatever. Yeah, the first one. And Karda, the first one as well, up there. 4. Now we've completed it. The rest of them. So, yes. And there's a making of segment at the end of Karda 2, so we didn't need to do an extra again, another Mark Scars one. He's already on there. I'm sure Mark Scars should comment on it later. But we both kind of agreed that in Trans Tech, when we remade the whole thing, there are plenty of commentaries there too. Even the commentary for the first one is related to the earlier version of the DVD release of that. So, I think we've been over why that story existed in the first place. Rather convoluted and fanficky. In a nutshell, the Transformers show started in 1984 or so. By 1986, they'd done 65 episodes about. And they were going to do an additional couple episodes and do a third season. They're going to set it in 2005. And because the Transformers the movie was going to jump ahead to 2005. Not be in the 80s, but in the way off future of 2005. Several oddities in the late 80s and late 90s existed at the same time as this story. The burgeoning internet, for one thing, was new. Cell phones were the size of a brick. In 86 I was in high school, and Arch Cars was in junior high. It was high school and junior high together. And then because it was a small school for kids with learning disabilities, and also the bad kids, they were also there, so like the stoners and stuff, Pine Hill, and so everybody. Now there are Pine Hills everywhere, but back then this was unique. A private school kind of thing. We were never stoners. We were never officially emos until the 90s when we were in college. Then we were kind of emo. But we were poser emos. So we were the minions of Libby. We were the minions of... We weren't really following Libby. We were the joke was that this character called Libby reminded us of the bad guys in Back to the Future, the Libyans. We didn't know we knew it was a country and we knew there were bad guys there, but we didn't get that was wrong to do that. We just did it because we're in high school and isolated in San Jose. Yeah, it's not cool. We didn't know. We really didn't. Didn't occur to us. That wasn't nice to make fun of Chris and Libby either, but we did. But they were on our side eventually. So anyway, so the Transformers thing in On Location, Pine. The Transformers thing though was different. There were two that we had role playing games. We had the Champions role playing game that Lonnie and his friends were doing, and Jamie and them. But we also had the Star Trek one, the Silly Trek, the role-playing game that we sort of invented, and had a magazine, so an on-location magazine we did during that time period in Pine Hill. Then it went on to Evergreen College in '89 and through '94, and then San Jose State from '94 to '98 for the English literature and creative writing degree. Eventually, and then on to San Jose State later on in the 2000s, 2006 to 2009, roughly. Yeah, and then a little 2011. So yeah, with a journalism degree, I was better at journalism. I've said some of this stuff already in the making of. It goes in the making of, it's already there, but you'd have to look for it. The Trans Saga seems to have an influence on other fanfic about Transformers. And although Mark's cards pointed out that we're on the same wavelength, like with Star Trek and the uncanny stuff. But there was some really, really uncanny stuff in this. Looking back at this, like how did they even interpreted some of it into Transformers going forward, even though the only way they would have known is if they were on the blogs early, reading the stories, reading the comments and stuff from Karda and Kal Kat and all that stuff back in the day, and going, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to put that in my future stuff. So yeah, there was Usenet services and stuff. They had Star Trek and Star Wars and porn, but we weren't doing the porn. They also had Transformers and Slash, and as the internet started, they had various bulletin boards. The largest, one of the largest of which was alttransformers.net and alttransformers.mush. Mush stood for multi-user shared hallucination. Or that was the shared hallucination was a joke. So yeah, so we had so Transformers fanfic written stories would go up there. So we put ours up there too. So they were up there. There was up until now no released version of the original videos and DVDs, even though I think some of them in parts did show at Junk Swamp, so I think they knew about them, and Evergreen and some of these other places. Some of them did show, like parts of Generation Scorned and parts of Machines That Time Forgot was at San Jose State. So there's the pieces of it got out, and yeah. So later on, but there was yeah. So and I'm sure we talked about them. I'm sure Jim Chacon, Jim Buffkin, and Tim Cantrell talked about them with their other peripheral friends out there as well, and mentioned them. Well, there's the Trans Tech, the Trans Saga, and all that. Oh yeah. Not trans people, trans. Yeah, we thought that by taking the copyrighted title Transformers and they were calling it Trans, we were somehow being clever. Kind of weren't. We weren't being clever. We thought we were being clever. So yeah. Trans. So that's what we did. In the 80s, part of what was going on is before Transformers the movie, that's the first one that was about, we were upset about too many reruns of Transformers, even though we had plenty of it. Too many reruns. The other friends that like G.I. Joes weren't complaining. Anyway, so Transformers the movie comes out, and we wanted to do our own fan film stuff, so we are literally the first known Transformers fans of the YouTube later YouTube generation of the Mush and all that to have ever done Transformers fanfic stories based on all the elements that come up later, all the tropes. We did them too, but we did them back in the 80s when the show was still on the air, which is pretty remarkable. Right in the middle of the second season, third season of Transformers. And I don't think anybody else was doing it quite that way at that time. Now, some of you out there, you enjoy it. Oh, here's mine from, Some of them have since seen the some of the other ones and said, oh, I did this and this. And usually they said, oh, I did this in 2000, or I did this in 2007, or I did this in 2009. So, no, pretty, it's yours by a long, long time. Yeah, we were G1, Generation Z, doing the thing, and then some of the older parts of the Generation Z say, "Oh, you're boomers." No, no, we're not boomers. Boomers would be our parents or grandparents. We're not boomers. No, if you're born after 1965, you're not a boomer. You're an X generation. Born after 1985, you're a Generation Y. Yeah. And if you're born after 2006, 2005, 2006, you are a millennial. Generation Y, you're a millennial because it's the end of the 80s and the early 2000s. Post-millennial. 86. So, and we're approaching another one. In 2026, there'll be another one. Millennial. But yeah, so the Transformers was going on, and we were in high school, so you can forgive the complete lack of filming knowledge. We just got a video camera, put it on the knee, filmed the Transformers, did the voices, usually incorrectly, and that's what we did. Battle of the Alicom was part 2. It's on there, to the thing, and there was Karda, the saga, which took place in the far off billions of years later. Which came up later, in Karda 2: The Return, in which they discover that it wasn't billions of years later. They'd been tricked by the radiation output of the base blowing up, and they thought they were in the distant future. But when the Transformers showed up, they were kind of like, "Oh, guess it isn't really the future. It isn't that far off. It was 2015 or so." Well, a lot of stuff was retconned, but. And that was in Karda 2: The Return in 1994. They found that out, and when they found that out, they destroyed the deity that told them. So they didn't like the guys. The false god didn't want to hear him proselytizing to them. But yes, but the Transformers story also went through other evolutions. The Hasbro tended to make them a little cheaper and a little smaller, and then a little weirder as they went on. They had Pretenders and Headmasters and Target Masters to try and get shit on the 3rd season, 4th season, early 4th season. The Japanese Transformers, they did their own thing. Headmasters or Master Force, the Zone and all that, which we didn't know about in the 80s, but by the 90s we saw videos of them. So we have some of them, some of it. It wasn't until the 2000s that they released, the Shout Factory released them, and we got to see what all the fuss is about. Japanese Transformers. Because Transformers started as Diaclone and Machine Change Robo Microman Man, so yeah. And in the also in the 2000s. We were at least one of the groups that was buying up all the Jetfires under Transcar. Yeah. So but yes, Karda with a K. We weren't intending to make fun of an Indian province. We had no idea that was a province. Also, Kal Kat is an Indian name, but we had no idea there either. It's California Cat. It's just shortened. We put K's on it. That's all we were thinking. Or Cal Skate was a former skate park. Skating rink that went under many years ago, but it is now apartment buildings. But it used to be a skate place. There were other skate parks, but it was a skate rink, and then they disappeared. And then there's another one that they built another one since then. But skate park. I've never been to the new one, even though my sister had something to do with putting it up. But yeah. So also, what we did during that time period was. Mark's card said, as I said, I graduated high school in '89, and he graduated high school in '92, so he went on to Silver Creek High School for the last 3 years, and he then joined me at Evergreen in time to do Starcrackers, the Sphere of Influence, which you see on the channel. It's a film school project that never got released to the teachers, but but it was a film school project. So in this film school thing, and playing all the characters, and yeah, he was playing a version of the teacher Steve Clark, Pine Hill. At which point later on he found that on Facebook, Steve Clark did, and he was like, "Oh, I know you guys like me that much." I'm immortalized as Captain Kirk on the ship. It's awesome. But yeah, the Transform thing had other tie-ins and stuff. It's interesting. For one thing, the Requiem Blaster, which is introduced in the first one, and then shows up in some of the other episodes too as well. The Requiem Blaster was entirely our thing. The Requiem Blaster was. Then you Armada fans, so the next generation might be thinking, no, Armada thought of it in 2002. No. No, it didn't. We thought of it in 1986. The Requiem Blaster. Where do you think they got the idea from? Hard to say. I mean, we didn't get paid or anything, but we were definitely discussing this powerful Requiem Blaster weapon on the boards back then, and they just said, "Oh, that's got to be canon, right?" And then when they updated the Transformers book, they just put it in there, so they wouldn't know. We had the book. I don't know what happened to it. We used to have the book, and it had all the stuff in it with the script book, the storybook of Show's Bible, Transformers. Very large, and they had to expand it when they went on to the other later stuff, like Armada and the Unicron trilogy in 2000. But there was a time in the 90s, around 89, 90, in which the transformable robot craze, at least as far as Hasbro was concerned, was dead. And so all the 90s stuff is very angsty. We get to Till All Are One after Union of the Cities and all that. And although I discuss it at length, Reunion of the Cities, which was a unfinished story, on the watch the commentary. Basically, that one, the camera was defective, and also we were defective, and we couldn't finish it, and it just was a mess. And Tim's toys got stolen out of his mother's car at the bank, and somebody probably thought they were getting a sack of money. That's probably what it was, because it was a sack, so they probably thought, "Oh, it's money, I'm going to break it and steal it." But they were disappointed. And they got it where they were going, and they're like, "Damn it, it's toys." But yeah, some toys were taken. The other ones that he left at my house were fine. They're still there. They were there. But yes, and then we subsequently switched back and forth. We had I have Jim's Triptychon and his Fortress Maximus, and Tim's Double Dealers in there, and Rodimus and stuff, and Primes, a couple of Primes, Agnes's, and we burned an Optimus Prime in Trans 2. So. But yeah, they and then in 1992, I'm making this all very short because you can watch the commentaries. It's all commentaries because we couldn't use any of the music because we were just using random music from other places. Don't do that in your fan films. Don't use the music from the show. Don't use the music from other shows. Makes you want to watch something else other than your fan film. Don't do that. So that's what we learned. We also learned to keep an eye on the toy, keep it in frame, keep it in focus. Don't film it from way above. Don't film it from down below. Keep everything in focus. And try not to show your hand. Get your hands in the shot. Try not to use cardboard boxes in the shot. We did all those things long before you kids did it. Long before you cats did it. Long, long, long time. So we know what we're doing. So, and then look at Trans Tech in the dead 2000s. We knew what we were doing at that point. Trans Tech. We knew what we were doing. But, so, we had it's on that one. So, and it's also possible that some of our guest stars were future church people that appeared. Also, Dan was one of the characters in it. The nephew was a kid in it. We're figuring we can post that though up here because with the commentary, because it's not technically a COPPA thing, that COPPA rule thing from 2 years ago, because it was from the 90s and technically nobody was being paid anyway. We were just messing around with toys and putting them on camera, so why would that be flagged? I hope it's not going to get flagged. It shouldn't, because it's just a kid playing with toys. Okay. It's a commercial for Transformers, basically. But yeah, and Transformers meets the Voltron. And then Transformers meets the Power Rangers. We do that first. Yeah, so... unair stuff in there. Yeah, so the Transformer robot craze went under until 1992, roughly, early 93. And then they launched Transformers Generation 2. And all they did was computer enhance and draw over existing older episodes and released a few new toys, but mostly recolors of old ones. And that wasn't enough for the fans. They wanted something new. They wanted the technology to evolve. So they had better ones. It wasn't until Beast Wars in 96 that happened, late 95, early 96, when their technology improved. They had ball joints and things like that. And different kind of screw joints and pegs that were different. They were smaller than the original Transformers, but they worked. Some of them were larger. Yeah, some of them were different. They were far more breakable than the original Transformers, in some cases. Beast Wars, the smaller Beast Wars were extremely breakable. But yeah, the ball joint stuff, other technology that they had. Yeah, and there was an apocryphal story that there was a contest for Transmetals. There was. I was in it. Transmetal Dinobot is very similar to a sketch that I made years ago of a Transmetal Dinobot, and that's what they used. I didn't get paid. No, didn't get paid. Didn't work for Hasbro. We've not worked for Hasbro. It's just a coincidence. There's other fan stuff. The limbo they go to is like the Dead Universe from the Netflix show, but it's also the limbo from Armada. The Black Hole Planet episode of Machines of Time Forgot is remarkably similar to the Unicron trilogy with the black holes and the other side of the galaxy and all that. And that, the Japanese version and the American version, so they got a hold of that somehow. Well, the early internet. They must have looked it up. Yeah. So there was this other Cho's Bible. So there's all these other books out and stuff. And the videos have never been officially put out till now. And you get to see them. So, but Transtech has been out. In fact, there were 24 episodes of Transtech, Transformers meets Robotech, and done between 2000. They were done in video between 2002, roughly, and 2009, and released subsequently each time. In 2002, 2006, 2009, there was released, and then Starship Chimera in 2019. But yes, but yeah, so we were constantly doing Transformers fan films every so decade or so after that. So the Transformer robot craze never died. In the 90s, it was in a glut for a while, and the Beast Wars started toward the end of... The Machine That Time Forgot was at the very end of... They released Beast Wars right after that. So our Mousetrap project crossover with the Beast Wars and set in 1999, the Blair Witch parody is with Beast Wars. So yeah, we were doing them all the time. Doing them all the time. And we got to these 9 episodes that you're going to see, or the 9 movies, are those 2 seasons. Looks like about 5 episodes of Generation 2 for the other. Well, one of them is Karda 2, The Return. So 4 of one and 4 of the other. Put them all together. It was 10 altogether with Karda and Karda 2. But yeah, hour-long or longer episodes. Back then, that were like movies, Transformer movies, OVAs. You'd put them in the DVD and play them. And they'd have all kinds of interesting things going on. These are edited from the 2005 and 2012 prints, so they have most of the bloopers pushed off to the end as bloopers and outtakes. You see how the making of it went. And yeah. And then we went on to do other ones. We did Transtech, as I mentioned. That might be familiar to the Beast Wars fans. Is it all the Transtech, the one with the monkey robot car thing and the other thing? Yes, that's the Transtech. Same thing. Yes, we had something to do with Transtech. Not the company that exists now, but rather Transformers meets Robotech. It was Transtech. It was going to be Transformers meets Robotech. Needless to say, Hasbro did not go for the idea, and they dropped it. And it later became something else. It later became a car robot. They started working with the Japanese again, and they had them do a car robot, which became Robots in Disguise. And then they did the Micron Daihatsu, the Minicon War, which became Armada. And the second one was Energon, and that became Transformers. That became a Transformers Super Link. That was a weird one. Linking them together, ripping them apart, and then they come back together. Something that we did in our show too, Karda 2 and She and the Time Forgotten. Some of the other ones were ripping them in half and stuff. That's interesting. It's weird. That's odd. The beginning, the tropes, way back then. We didn't do it, but it appears we had some influence on it somehow. Great minds think alike. That's what Mark Scott says. Great minds think alike. It can't be that you had that much influence on it, but kind of looks like we did somehow. But we can just say if they ask, no, we didn't. Really. But it seems uncanny. So we have more to come. Yes. Then the saga continued. After Transtech, we brought Rick Hunter home in the Robotech universe, so it's Transformers through Robotech, and we did Space Bridge, and then we did the end of the Circle and Space Bridge and the Bioship Mysteries and Return of the Shadows and the Shadows Return and all that in the 2015 to 2019, 2016, 2018 period. Shadow Children was 2018. Pandemic happened in late 2019, early 2020. So everybody was trapped indoors anyway and said, you know what? Let's do the Alt Transformers Mush. Let's dig out those stories we recently rediscovered and let's adapt the entire Mush library, the good ones, of course, the hour-long good ones, the novellas, into episodes. And we've already been over that. You can watch all the Mush episodes. There were 17 in Season 1 and 11 in Season 2. Adaptations of the script, and there was recently a third season called Transformers Lexicons from the Lexicon, which was the other group that kept the archives. We're not putting up any archives of our own because of copyright, and also where would we put them if we just had like a Google blog with that? I think the videos are better. Because you can just see the video, we adapt something to the video. And the newest thing we have is Robotech, our own version of the Sentinels based on Lexicon Season 2. And we're going to do Robotech meets the Transformers, and instead of Transformers meets Robotech. And it's going to be awesome. Liberations, Challenges, and Destiny. Name of those 3 miniseries. And could do that next. You'll see. At least one of them. Next, at least we'll do one of them in 2022. With the first one, the one's about the planet of the Aptera, the Tyrol, the moon. The second is about Hadon, the planet Hadon 4, and the third is about Aptera, the Invid homeworld. Yes, Robotech meets the Transformers. It's the Space Bridge universe, and it's all been a multiverse. I always thought of it as a multiverse, even back then. Machines of Time Forgotten is about the multiverse being created by the different time travels and warps by the creator robot that was doing stuff to the Karda earlier and then went on to do the other stuff. So he was resurrected after he burned up and became the other guy. Or something, or some other creator robot that did it. Fights the giant Unicron and stuff. And another Unicron. They rebuild Unicron like an Armada. Like an Armada. And the Minicons, the mini robots, the little guys from the dance story. Yeah, you might think, oh, he's just ripping off Armada. No, it predates that. By a good 8 years. Predates Armada. It's way before it. It's totally before it. Yep. We had Minicons in there. We did. Yeah. So, well, a natural progression from mini Autobots and mini Decepticons would be Minicons. The Micro Machine line, the Micro Transformers also didn't sell as Micro Transformers, so they made them into Minicons. So they're kind of the same idea. They're the same scale and everything. I have a lot of those guys. But yeah, and how many times have they showed Triptychon fighting, fighting Metroplex or something? The new Titans are different sizes and stuff. Yeah, so and they bought the GoBots out. So the Transformers robot craze didn't end. I thought it was going to end in the 90s. The story goes through all that. But it didn't end. No, but Beast Wars continued it. Beast Wars continued it enough that they kept going, and they car robot there's been an obscure Transformers series every year or every other year since. And the biggest thing that happened was Michael Bay put live-action Transformers on the map. Even despite what you might think about, the Michael Bay movies didn't work, and they were not canon enough and whatever. They did put it on the map when that first Transformers movie hit in 2007. The Optimus Prime Transformers and all that. That movie made almost $1 billion. Like, okay, that put it on the map. It's absolutely like, yeah, okay. Yeah, everybody loves Transformers now. It's officially it's not just a nerd thing. It's like it's quiche, it's niche. It's not niche anymore. It's kitschy. It's almost Transformers. Yeah, people were getting tattoos of Decepticon symbols and stuff walking around. People were putting them on their cars. Autobots and Decepticon symbols. Ew, it was people were developing different things about the whole mythos and whatever. And that's why we don't really do any of the later archive stuff, just because it's kind of the same. But we did some of it in here, so we usually rewrite the stories sufficiently so that they're not the same original. But we do give them byline credits if they submit a story out here. Trans Tech Magazine was also existed at the time and put a lot of the mush stuff in it. That's where the archive came from, was Trans Tech Magazine, because we copied it off of the Usenet site years ago. So in the 90s, in the early 2000s, up to the early 2000s, around 2003. But the newer one was Lexicons 2015, so we had that lying around. But yeah, so but they're still old stories from the 2000s, 90s and 2000s. But yeah, so a lot of other people were also first out of the gate. The whole idea of the Decepticons having a vast empire back there and doing are there other Transformers out there? There are lots of Decepticons out there, that kind of thing. Or their empire, in order for Megatron or Galvatron to take over, they must have other Cybertronians out there, lots of them. And the fans thought of the Liege Maximo, that idea, before the IDW picked up on it. It was in Generation 2. Yeah, it was Jyaxis was just Axis. It was in Generation 2, so it's all canon. The Wreckers from the British continuity, of course the Microns and the Minicons from the Japanese continuity, and the cassette bots and the disc bots and stuff from later on. The Generations line, the Generations thing later. So it's not just nerdy stuff anymore. It definitely isn't. There have been 7 movies now? There's going to be 7 movies because the Michael Bay, there was Transformers, and there was Transformers 2, that was Revenge of the Fallen, it was very, very Kal Kat like story, actually. Then there was there was 3, Dark of the Moon, even more Kal Kat like, even including some of our elements in there. Even the Pretender chick, wasn't that she in part 2? Yeah. But then there was we did that. We weren't on that set, but we did that. They battled in Chicago, my late father's hometown, in one of them. Of course they did. Well, it wasn't there. Chicago. They were sending us all kinds of snippets when they were making that movie. They wanted us to know all about it. They kept sending us stuff from T-Formers and Radio Free Cybertron and all that. All were the guys from the thing years ago. I should have been on Radio Free Cybertron. I don't know why they haven't invited me. Huh. They should. Hey, Radio Free Cybertron, is still around? I'd love to talk about it. But yeah, we didn't officially do any Transformers, but it seems really uncanny and weirdly unofficial that sort of did. It's just weird. And then, then later ones, then they did the Mark Wahlberg ones, like The Age of Extinction and The Last Night, in which they Age of Extinction included Mark Karda's original name. They named Mark Wahlberg Yeager. Cade Yeager. Wow. Okay, you guys are really trying to... You guys are familiar with our blog. Not only the blog, you're familiar with our channel. Wow. Okay. Yeager. Right. And Attinger. Adam. They just got it wrong. And they mixed it up because they said Cade Yeager had a daughter, but that's actually Sarah from who played briefly played the niece. She played one of the Decepticons, Allison, at one point in the space bridge. Not the whole time, just that one day. She was like, I want to play Allison. Yeah, and you have it take place at Mission College because it's funny, because it's like redundant. Do that. Okay. So yeah, so there's been several. There was David was on the first series, and Dan was in this series 2, and Sarah was in Space Bridge. So we have lots of nieces and nephews who keep appearing in. But yeah, and in Chimera as well. But yes, so and Barth was in the background in some of them too, and encouraged the darker ones there. But yes, the sister. But they, and the Invid Queen literally kind of was her. But yeah, it's interesting that yeah, and the Bumblebee movie was awesome. It was like like Scott Boyd from the Church wrote that one or something. That was awesome. Well, yes, the Bumblebee movie, and that makes 6 or 5. So the next one is 6. 6 or 7. I might be missing one. I don't think I'm missing one. But yeah, the Unicron and the Earth thing, that was dumb. It should have always been a planet outside. I told the guys making Prime, don't do that. They did it anyway. Listen to me. I didn't really want them to make Transformers animated either, because it made them all look silly. Well, they shouldn't look that silly, but it went over pretty well. Did a 3rd season, so I was okay with it. And we were involved in the Netflix thing indirectly, and thought that the one guy wasn't the creator guy he was. And he's like, no, I am the guy that did it. Oh, sorry. we didn't think we would actually talk to you. Well, yeah. Yeah, why would you talk to me? But yeah. And Transformers Lexicons redeems the Netflix series in the final episode by having them get home from limbo. So yeah. So. Anyway, so it's a multiverse. It could happen, in one verse it did. Yeah, Liege Maximo also gets saved. Also, the fans of our series were like, "Oh, the shared hallucinations. You killed Springer. How could you do that? You loved him so much. Springer, no." It was like, no, we told them, no, we're going to make a 3rd season. We're going to bring it back. Yeah, we're not going to, they aren't canceled. We're going to go do some Starship Chimera, some more Starship locations, and they'll come back to it, and we'll save Springer. We're going to save Springer, and we did. Lexicons, we saved Springer. So, interesting. Yeah, so... what's going on about the other stuff. But yeah, we learned a lot from the Transformers universe. We learned what not to do, and and what to do, and the backgrounds and things. And sets got better, increasing over time. Better cameras, better stuff like that. The better toys. We didn't use any of the G1 toys in any of the newer ones. But then the Netflix show did give us fairly good representations of movable, accurate Transformers, even though they're a little small. of the G1 characters, like what would they be as modern toys. That did make some of them a little clunky though, because they did it a little too well. Apparently, all of the Datsun bots, the like Blue Streak and then Prowl and everybody, they're just as cheap as they were back in the 80s. Apparently, they fall apart. So the Generations ones were actually better than 10 years earlier. But wow, okay, guys, you did something wrong here. That's a little too cheap. But yeah, and then they start to get cheaper. And Earthspark is a new show for the kids. And it's, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that one. But the Bumblebee Cyberverse was also for little kids. So that had some interesting ideas. Although somebody pointed out, oh, there's one of your stories they did one of your things, and they did. You should watch this one. And they did a Cyberverse episode with the Doom Galvatron mind screw thing of the warps, like the Doom episode from that we wrote, which was an episode in here. It was Till All Are One, and they did their version, and I was like, yeah, this is a lot like that. They clearly read it. That's cool. That's great. No, that is great. You guys animated it, and yeah, and they might say, oh, what about this other thing? What about Corrosion of War Without End? Talk about that. Well, I didn't write Corrosion of War Without End. That was Rob Powers, but I adapted it. I wasn't the first one to adapt it. There have been versions of that by Emgo and other people. There's also Emgo also did a version of. I don't know him, but Emgo also did a version of the King Grimlock story, the King Dinobot story, which has been done a few times. And he did a version of that too. And yeah, the War Without End. They adapted. A game company adapted the War Without End. It's called the War for Cybertron. Maybe you're familiar with it. A game company, and they just. I don't think it gets getting paid for that either. They just adapted it. So that's cool. And the Netflix series is related to War for Cybertron. So they've been doing a version of that. And I consider the Netflix show a version of that yet again. Another version of that. Our version aired when theirs did, and that's awesome. But we were not getting ads, though. No ad revenue for any of our fan films. We're not getting paid. I did it because it was fun. Because I had the means to put it together, to have the figures, and we just did it on our own. Just said, we're just going to do this. Our version was not AdSense, not on TV, not on YouTube, just on YouTube. And yeah, so we do it for fun. There's no ad revenue. We have although we have age-restricted 2 episodes of the series here in the Trans 2 universe, the Karda 2, The Return, and the Prime Must Die episode of the Transformers 2, because of the cartoon violence and also gratuitous scenes of them being tortured, ripped apart, or burnt. We figured some parent group is going to complain, or they're going to flag it. Burning Transformers. And it's like, yeah, but we did it under supervision and stuff. We didn't just destroy stuff. If you look at the Karda 2: The Return, the making of footage, there's every time they started something out there to burn the toy or destroy it, there was a wall, and there was a pit, and they would set them in the pit, and then make it look like they were in the middle of the whole thing, but they were actually in a very protected area in a pit. There was plenty of room around it, and it was in a fenced-in area, and there were no kids present, and it was just, and in a house, and everything was under to code, so nothing burned up. The only thing that burned up later was a fort on the set, which burned up in the end of filming of Trans Tech, but we didn't do that. That was a tossed cigarette. We didn't smoke, so somebody else that lit the fort on fire during the other production and burnt the fort down. That wasn't us. Nope. And yeah, it wasn't us. We weren't there when it happened. We came back from it afterwards. It was a really super hot day, and it was on fire. And the firefighters were putting it out. And yeah, so part of the set burnt down. But but it wasn't from the Trans Tech. That was like a good 15 years later. Or is it 15 years later? Let's see. So we did Karda to the Return in 85. In 2009. 14 years later. Something. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah, so so he set it up so it's restricted. 18 years old you can watch it. Even though it's like it's only restricted because of the flame burning stuff. Interestingly enough, Burned Prime, one of our videos, is the Prime clip from the Prime getting burned. We burned a Optimus Prime in 1994 in an episode. And 1992 in an episode, actually. And you get to see the whole episode. Yeah, you get to see the whole thing. The commentary of the episode. We had to do commentaries over them because the audio was music from everywhere. We couldn't use that. Yeah, don't just use copyrighted music. Make your own music and then put it in there. And then nobody can flag it. But yeah, so that was the Transformers. Yeah, it's been fun. It yeah. That was yeah. So I'm posting them now, and you can watch them. And they're all gonna be pretty much all rendered now. And yeah, they're commentary tracks, so you just look through them all. You'll never see the actual audio, original clips, the MP4 files that were converted from them. The only way you'd ever see those is if you came over here to the studio. Don't, though, not without permission, and watch them. Which would be, yeah. Now, we did a version of Trans Tech as well. We did the originally the Trans Tech movies were aired as 24 episodes, but they're actually three-hour movies. And those three hour miniseries movies were released as movie form during the pandemic as well. So you can watch those all the way through. And making of. There were making of documentaries were also released then. So we have making of for all of those. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff. But yeah, it's like Kal Kat never throws anything away when it comes to Transformer films and stuff. You look at all the footage that we've ever done. It only got a little monotonous with the newer ones just because, like, we did actually not include a lot of bloopers of the other ones because they were not funny after a while. They became serious. Serious art. We're trying to get the shots right. Certainly not in the G1 versions. Through college. Not serious art. So this is the making of Trans 2 and Karda. It's only called Trans because Transformers. It has no other meaning other than that. Transformers shouldn't technically have gender or identity just because they wouldn't be robots. And when they make female ones, IDW messed with one of those and said like RC was like a clone that was altered. That's kind of weird. Yeah, there have been lots of fan characters. Now, somebody invented Windblade, somebody invented Night Racer, and Roxy, and some of the other characters, and we included them. But yeah, did we didn't come up with anybody other than Transmetal Dinobot? Let's see. Let's think. There's an original Kal Kat one. Yes, there is. In the Bumblebee movie, her name is Dropkick. Yes. Yeah. Shatter kind of is too, but we're Dropkick. Yeah. Excellent. So it was similar to Night Racer. Actually, it probably should have been called Night Racer. Technically. Yeah, but the name Dropkick is from this. Totally. But the name is similar. Also, there's two. Misfire. The G1 Target Master. Misfire. Yeah. It's one of ours. Totally is, because if you look at the original Karda, Misfire is right there in '86, before they introduced that character. So they thought that name was funny, so they used it. misfire. Ew, with this, because it's with the target master aimless. I think aimless suits you better. But yes, so there's some crossover there. Interesting. Ew, the GoBots eventually merged with the Transformers, so now they have a Crasher. I have to get it. Now the TG Omega has one. I have to find one. So. Crasher. But yes, so that would be funny. I have to have one. Ew. We got some other guys over here. I got some other guys. Two of my other dudes here. I'll show them off. Just show them off here. My current dudes. This is. Before we go. It's like when I said there's going to be the big Dinobots are coming out. They did. They're out. They haven't made Snarl and Swoop yet. I hope they do, because they're supposed to be cool. So this is this guy. These skids, but Diaclone with skids. And the mud flap, basically. It's called Burnout. Burnout. Yep. It's Burnout. He's going to be in the Robotech thing. And here we have Pulse. Pulse Spike. Road Holler. Road Holler. Yeah, new guys. So. New guys. Walmart exclusive Road Hauler. I said, yeah, I'm buying that. Hells yes. Yeah. So, anyway, so yeah, transform your day into an adventure. Autobots transform and roll out. Roll out. Yeah, we learned how to do the voices better. At which point, convention era Frank Wilker said, well, I heard you imitate Megatron. I'm not out of a job yet. We're close. And you know, back in the day, we had to pitch bend our voices to make Soundwave sound like Soundwave, you know. But you can do it, for some reason. Yes, I'm Soundwave. But yes. An Optimus Prime. Peter Cullen basically said that it's his brother, but John Wayne a little bit. A little bit of John Wayne and his brother. That's what he said. So it's not just, I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. It's, I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. There's a little twarm to his voice. Like he may be from the South a little bit, but only a little, like the Midwest or something. Autobots, transform and roll out. And also, you can put a hole over your face and make it sound like you're underwater. No, don't do that. And also, I can do Shaggy, Zoinks, Scoob. But yeah, I can do lots of voices. I was cracking up the Generations cast later on. The San Jose State, the student union thing, doing voices for the Transformers. Ew, I'd seen the Transformers the movie with Tim at least 20 times back at the Pinehill days and Evergreen. And then probably another 20 times later over the years. Watched that movie like every year or something. Haven't recently though. And then there was and John several times. But yes, a Transformers movie. Well, yeah, I memorized it. So I knew a lot of lines for it. I could do a lot of lines for it. Yeah. One shall stand, one shall fall. Why throw away your life so recklessly? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron. No, I'll crush you with my bare hands. Out of the way, Hot Rod. That's Prime's fight. Fall, fall. I would have waited an eternity for this. It's over, Prime. And then, of course, in the Japanese continuity, you could tell they were reading a script where they had to read the word transform, and there was a dash or exclamation after it. And the guys in the headmaster and master force would go, transform dash. It's like, you don't need to say the dash afterward. To transform. Never mind. Keeps doing it. Transform dash. No. You don't need to say this question mark. Just to transform. It's the end of the director's mark. Kept saying it. But yes, transform dash. Yeah. And yeah. Transformers Adventures in Fanfic and stuff. I would have had a panel at the convention. Not the Adam Savage one, but the previous one, the Fanime. But yeah, it got canceled. So anyway, oh well. I wasn't there to officially, so yeah. Oh well. I didn't pay for it, so they didn't let me go. But I could have done a Transformers panel. Oh well. I didn't really get my act together before it started, so oh well. Next year. It's an Adamacon thing anyway. Transformers. No, it wasn't a panel.